This episode of the ZuLoo Pōōdcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.
Yeah, I actually tried it out, and as far as I could tell, it was doing its job.
It was effective.
I mean, I sort of have the opposite problem as Jocelyn.
Okay.
You know, I'm like, a little too often.
We need to give you a lot of Ritz crackers and kind of
4 or 5 times a day is
out.
like too often. So.
Welcome to the ZuLoo Pōōdcast, where we talk all things poop, toilets, and sanitation. Through insightful news, impact stories, and quirky humor, we aim to discuss and highlight the critical role toilets play in whisking poop out of our lives, the impact toilets have, or lack thereof, in the health and wellness of humanity, and what ZuLoo is doing to help solve the current global sanitation crisis.
Hey, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the ZuLoo Pōōdcast.
They are friends.
They are all of our friends now. We feel very close.
If you're watching us, you got to be a friend.
You got to be a friend.
Our enemies do not watch.
And I got to come up with something else besides, hey, everyone. You got to switch it up once in a while.
ZuLoo friends, yeah.
ZuLoo friends. We have a really, really great interview today. Jeremy Reeves with Peak Biome, talking about his product, Peak BioBoost. Darren has firsthand experience with this. We're going to get into that a little bit later.
First and second hand.
Yeah.
and other parts of the body.
But Jeremy was really, really fun to talk to. It was cool to hear his story and how he ended up in this space and some of the other products that he's working on. Yep. But before we jump into Jeremy's interview, we're going to toss it over to Darren because I'm sure he's got some fantastic, exciting poo news.
Poo news, as always.
That's right. Poo news. That's why people tune in, right? We always try to find poo news that's somewhat related to the topic. And today there's some few articles. And maybe ask you guys, how can you tell if your gut is healthy or not? How do you?
This is gross, but you got to check out what's coming out of it.
Yeah.
That's always a good indicator, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is an article that talks about different ways to tell. This is Eve Woman magazine. I don't know if I've heard
Eve Woman. Okay. Never heard of it.
Published by The Standard. They, as you know, the gut is a very long tube, made of a lot of different, lot of moving parts, right? And so, obviously, it starts at your mouth and it has an ending point, and there's like a couple miles between, right? So there's a lot.
Is it really miles?
It really is
crazy.
Long. Yeah. Your intestine is really long.
It's amazing that the food
long.
moves through that quickly. Then, if it's a few miles.
And so, obviously, we're talking about gut health today, and
They
obviously
say it's the second brain, right?
Right.
Your gut is really important to your health.
Yeah,
sure.
And I've got another article that talks about that, the gut mind connection. But obviously, the first indication if there's any sort of pain or discomfort, right? That's an indicator that, hey, maybe something's going on there. Obviously, things that can cause bloating or discomfort, gas. I mean, there's something off, right? In either there's a allergic reaction going on, or and I'm not a doctor, by the way, so disclaimer, but
there's a
blockage.
Dr. Darren. But obviously that's the first indication. If there's pain and bloating, then maybe you need to take a look at maybe whatever you're eating, number one, and then maybe if you're eating a healthy diet already, but there's still issues going on, then looking at maybe some things that could help your gut have a healthier, because it is a biosphere unto itself, right? Healthy bacteria, but like any bacteria in the wrong place, right? It could do some damage, right? So obviously pain is one thing. It talks about color and buoyancy, right?
Okay.
Right? So, Jocelyn, you mentioned, a lot of people are familiar with the Bristol chart of different different colors of stool and consistency, right? And if all your poop is looking like this, that's not the best, healthiest sign, right?
We're not going for soft serve.
Although the color would be pretty good. The color probably pretty good.
Yeah, if you're listening, not watching, he just held up one of the poop emojis.
That's right. Yeah. One of the poop emojis.
Color good, shape no.
Yeah, the shape of that. No,
it should not look like something you can get at Wendy's.
That's right. It's not a soft serve cone type consistency. Obviously, like my uncle one time, he wound up having to go to the emergency room because he was like, oh, my poop is black. My poop is black and not sure why, and finally he went into the doctor and he kept losing weight, couldn't keep weight on. And turned out he had a little hole in his stomach, or not just a hole. It was causing blood to get into his intestines. And so that's why apparently, I mean, not to gross you out, but if, blood, once it goes through the colon, it turns black. Right. So that's not a good color, right?
Right.
Obviously, other like red or any other colors is a bad deal.
There should not be a rainbow in your bowl.
Yeah, it should not be a rainbow, unless you're a unicorn.
That's true.
Anyway, so those are just some things. Obviously, and Jeremy talks a little more about this, like how to maintain a good gut health, and I'm sure in future episodes we'll have real doctors come on and really correct us. All.
Fact check, Dr. Darren.
But as far as we can tell, we were just sharing this knowledge with you as we get it. But anyway, how's your gut health? You guys good? You guys good?
I'm good. I've been, knock on wood, I've had actually really good health.
Okay. Gut health. Good.
Grateful. Yeah.
Well, I think my goal. I don't know when this is going to air relative to when we interviewed.
That's right. You have
Devin.
a little goal going on, right?
To go once a day.
Once a day.
Okay.
Because I don't.
Okay.
This is like all very personal information that I'm sure you guys are fascinated with. But I have been
every other
steps
day
to increase my regularity.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I am actually really excited to try some of this the Peak BioBoost that we sell on our marketplace, because Jeremy, you'll hear in the interview, there are so many great testimonials from customers whose gut health has really improved when taking this stuff. He broke down the differences between prebiotics and probiotics, which I thought was pretty interesting, because you hear a lot of, those are both buzzwords, but like, do we really know exactly what differentiates one from the other?
Right.
So and he had so many testimonials, like older people, like 97-year-olds, and all ages.
Yeah, I actually tried it out, and as far as I could tell, it was doing its job.
It was effective.
I mean, I sort of have the opposite problem as Jocelyn.
Okay.
I'm like, a little too often.
We need to give you a lot of Ritz crackers and kind of
4 or 5 times a day is like too often, right? So,
4 to 5 times a day?
I mean, I've really figured it out with my diet, right?
Yeah.
When I used to eat just whatever,
we're going a lot.
I'm like, maybe mid-meal, I would get up and go, and I mean, I think you guys have seen that.
Well, we did it. we had
a
podcast, remember?
We had an episode
Darren, he gets this look in his eyes. I gotta go.
A little bit of panic. But
that was legit. He had to go to the bathroom.
But that was my normal experience before I figured out, like, what I can eat. And I mean, to me, it's like super simple, super clean.
Yeah.
There's a protein. There's a starch. There's if maybe sometimes a salad, but salad, like a salad dressing. Man, that kicks me off, right? Anyway, so. I'm probably not the best customer for BioBoost, but, other people that may have the opposite problem who maybe we're going to send this home.
So for constipation,
we're going to send this home with Jocelyn.
Yeah.
And see.
I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Report.
See what happens. Right? But also there's another article here, Medical Express talks about there's new evidence suggesting there's a link between gut health and Parkinson's disease. They've shown that there's early indicators that an unhealthy gut predisposes you for Parkinson's, and they've shown that in animals and also in people as well.
Animals? Do animals get Parkinson's disease?
Yep.
Wow.
They say there's a in some medical journals recently, there's a protein found in the gut called alpha synuclein. I think I'm saying that right. Travels, but it travels through the nervous system, and if it gets corrupted, and if it reaches the brain, then it makes the person more likely to get Parkinson's. And obviously, like a poor diet, high sugar, high refined foods increases those proteins in the gut, right? And like we've been talking about, if a lot of this bacteria, a lot of this gut, as long as it stays where it's supposed to be, it's good, right? If it gets out onto your cutting board or to a toilet seat or into your brain, even worse, right? Because then it affects your brain. You were talking about, gut health, gut mind health connection. I mean, that's a real thing. I mean, it's not just sort of pseudoscience. I mean, they're showing that there's a definite connection. So if you love your brain, you want to love your gut too, right?
Eat well.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's some news for you.
All right. So there you have it, people. Eat really well. Check your stuff every day. And there are tools to help you if you feel like you're not as regular or if you're too regular. I'm curious, are you eating something specific to kind of... Are
you curious about my gut health? Is that?
Well, because I've heard this seems to me, you tell me, Suzanne, what you think, but that seems to be more of a problem with men, that they're going multiple, and maybe that's not a problem. Maybe it's a good thing. But for you, it sounds like maybe you're not getting the nutrients out of the food because it's going through you too quickly. True.
Yeah, that is true. And most of it, if it goes immediately through you, there's no time to break it down, to absorb it all and all that stuff. So yeah, absolutely.
So what are you eating to slow it down? Is it just that combination of protein, starch, and something?
Yeah. I mean, it's just be very, very, boring food.
Yeah.
Super boring, not super spicy. My wife can't stand it because she loves variety. She loves flavor. She likes all of that. And I love all that too, but I've got to weigh it do I want that awesome tasting whatever? And then I got to go, it's all going to go down the drain in a few minutes. So,
yeah.
So anyway.
So you eat a lot of eggs and oatmeal, right? You eat a lot of egg whites.
I mean, personally, I eat a lot of breakfast is egg whites and oatmeal. Usually I'll eat fish and rice.
What are you talking about? That sounds super exciting.
No, I mean, and that's my sort of I don't have to really think about what am I going to eat. Well, I'm just going to eat those same things. And
once you dial it in, it is kind of nice to alleviate the choice out of everything. And it's just this is what it is. And then it takes there's no more mental energy in deciding what am I going to eat.
But yeah, sometimes people say, oh, let's go, I'll be on a business meeting or somewhere. Oh, let's go to Five Guys or, hamburger. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, I love hamburgers and that kind of food.
You got to be the gut police.
I got to give myself maybe, I'll do once a week. Maybe I'll do that. But, got to have a toilet nearby. And, I remember I used to do a scoutmaster with scouts, and we'd be out in the wilderness, and a lot of times I wouldn't have control over what the heck they were cooking on the stove. Man, I just, mid-meal, I got to go dig a hole somewhere.
There's where's Darren?
He's excused himself again. Missing.
Is he?
So,
the shovel's missing.
If you ever wonder where you are, where Darren is,
we don't wonder. We know.
He's digging a hole somewhere.
Yeah. So anyway,
bless his heart.
All right. Well, let's jump into the interview with Jeremy, and we'll hear more about solutions as opposed to just our problems.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Jeremy Reeves, we are super excited to have you on the Poodcast. Really excited to talk about your product that we are actually selling on our marketplace. I did a lot of research on it this morning. I have tons of questions. I'm really excited to dive in. But before we get to that, I would love to hear a little bit about you and kind of your journey that brought you to this space and why you ended up developing Peak BioBoost.
Sure. So I've been in the health industry pretty much since my senior year of college. I actually went to get a degree in psychology but started getting into business and things like kind of while I was in college, and never used my degree at all. Pretty much went and it was a completely useless 4-year degree, but had a lot of, learned a lot of things in college and that sort of thing. And it led me to where I am now, so it's fine. So anyway, started going into my senior year of college, started as a writer in the health industry, and it kind of just morphed from there. I was like a writer, and then I became a marketing consultant, and then I was a marketing director. Everything was in the health industry. And then when I left working with this health company, they had multiple products. They had all sorts. They had coaching, they had live events, they had all sorts of different stuff. Then I left there pretty much to start my own and my own company, right, selling health products. And I was trying to think of like what I wanted to do, because I knew I wanted to be like in that industry, because it's all I'd ever known, really. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. I mean, I have like a sauna in my garage. I have my entire garage is just like, it's like a 3-car garage filled with workout stuff, and just there's all sorts.
Do you have an ice bath in there?
No, I don't have an ice bath. It's the one thing that I don't. I've done ice baths a million times and stuff. It's the one thing that right now they're really expensive, and like I don't really want to spend like a couple $1,000s on like an ice bath, like just to sit in thing ice,
Yeah, I mean they are the hot thing right now. Everybody's
I know, yeah,
getting them.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I've never been into them as much as other things, but I do, like if I go to a mastermind somewhere, someone's house and they have one, I'll jump in, whatever. But yeah, they are interesting. Anyway, so I when I was trying to think of what products to make, the first one that we did actually was weight loss supplement, actually, but it was the company's called Peak Biome that I have now. And it's all gut health, right? Or it started as gut health. We actually do a whole bunch of stuff now, but started as gut health. And so, I was talking like in the industry and to various scientists and, things like that, kind of just industry experts. And, now this is back in 2019. So the big thing back then was using, certain strains of probiotics, to help you with weight loss, because they help essentially like block the absorption of fats in your system and stuff like that. So you like poop out the fat, right? So that was kind of the hook. And now it's very overplayed now. It's a couple of years later and stuff. But that was like the big thing back then. So that was out for a couple of months, and then the second one, which was Peak BioBoost, which is still our biggest seller, is using prebiotics not pro, but pre, for constipation. And that was the second one, because I was like, well, I've always had a hard time like going for my entire life. So I want to like essentially build this product for myself. Right. And so I did a whole bunch of research, and again, talked to a whole bunch of industry experts and formulators and all the kind of stuff that goes along with, developing your own formula. And did it, and I still remember that I got it, and it was 2 days later. I'd always been irregular my entire life, and I got it, and like 2 days later, I went to the bathroom, and then the next day I went to the bathroom. Next day I went, and I was like, oh my God, this works. and so
it's amazing how exciting that is when it happens. You're like, this is actually something to celebrate.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so it was really cool too, because like we weren't even selling it at that point. Like I was just testing it on myself, which is generally what we do with our products anyway. And so I was working, and then I gave it to my wife. She's fine. She's been very regular her entire life. She's no issues now whatsoever. But I knew several people, friends, and my mom, and my brother, and things like that. And everyone that I was giving it to, they're like, "Oh my God, this stuff! Like it only takes a couple of days, and it's already starting to work." And so it was really exciting. It was the first like a second product that I'd ever done. So I was very kind of excited about it. And then we launched it, and it just it took off. It was like I'm trying to think. We have probably 125,000 customers, I think, at this point over the last 3.5 years since we launched it. So it's been a kind of a rocket ship since. And it's like, and it makes it so much better because I built it for myself. And then it's like to see how many people we have. Our team has in our Slack channel, we have a testimonials channel. And so anytime someone writes in saying that, basically with a testimonial, we put it in the Slack channel. We all celebrate it, and like it's a really fun thing. But it's like it's very cool as the owner to see it's changing lives. All over. I mean, people from teenagers all the way up to, I think our oldest customer that we know of at least is 97, I think was the highest that we've had. But I mean, we've had people that, I don't even know if I can tell the horror stories on a public thing or not, but it's very.
This is the place you can do that. We want to hear the horror story.
Okay. So one of them that really sticks out in my mind, we've had several that have had that have been going through cancer and or like things like, breaking both legs and they're on pain meds. Like a lot of these, like a lot of meds like that will really screw you up. So two of them. The one was going through cancer and like the chemo really screwed her up, right? So like really, really bad, felt awful, and it gave her constipation. Never had it in her life. Gave her constipation really bad, and had it for like months, and just could not figure out how to get it regulated again. And then took Peak BioBoost, and I think it was like a week later, and she's like, every day I'm going now. This is like the best thing, and I know it's just like this small thing, but like I just feel so terrible every day, and this just makes me like just a little bit happier, So that was a really big thing for me, and then the other one was this lady. I think she was 92. She was actually wrote us from the nursing home, and said that her constipation was so bad that they actually had to go up and manually remove her poop. Yeah. I think it was like a weekly basis or something, because there was like no other way to get it out. And she's like, it was the most humiliating. Like, I mean, imagine, right? Like 92, especially. I mean, you're just in a nursing home, and it's hard enough, trying to kind of get by, and just having to have that done to you, like oh God, I can't even imagine. And so she was able to like not have to go through that anymore, So it's like I literally teared up when I read that. It was like, but I mean, we get stuff like that all the time, and it's so nice to see, and it's especially because a lot of things just don't work.
Yeah.
So you do have a really lengthy testimonial section on your site. Like I was scrolling, it kept going and going and going. And
that's probably. I mean, we have thousands at this point. That's probably a tiny fraction of what we actually have.
So before you got into the Peak BioBoost, I mean, did you have any idea? I mean, you developed for yourself, right? To help your own self out, and obviously some friends and family. But did you have any sort of idea that was such a big issue with consumers, constipation? I mean, I tend to have personally, I've got the opposite effect, right? I eat food and it like goes right through me, right?
Yeah, it goes right through it.
But other people seems like constipation is a common, I guess, depending on their diet and like you said, like their medications, I know definitely help, or they, prevent people from going regularly. But did you have any idea that this was going to catch on so readily?
Yeah, at that point I didn't. At this point, when we launch things, we do more market research and things like that. Than back then, I was a much different entrepreneur back then, and much more green, I guess you could say, and kind of just like would be an entrepreneur that's like, oh, I want to try this, and just try it with like no anything behind, just like on a whim, sort of thing. So I'm a little bit more disciplined with that kind of stuff now. So it was definitely, and honestly, it was good timing with COVID too. Like it was, the whole health industry exploded during that time. And everyone, it brought so much awareness to people's health, that I wish something, obviously not something like that again, but like some sort of thing could like remind people again about how important their health is, because that was the one benefit that came from that, is like people actually started paying attention to their health for once, which was nice to see. And I kind of wish it had lasted, because it went back down since then. But it was, I mean, to answer the question, not really. It became very apparent to us when we launched it, that many people were suffering from it. But yeah, when we did, it was kind of just a happy accident. It was just one of those passion projects that I wanted to do for myself, and just took off. And I think there's a lot to be said about that too.
Yeah, I've got the product here. What's the difference between I've heard of probiotic, but prebiotic? What's the difference between like probiotic and a prebiotic? Maybe you want to explain that real quick.
Yep. So a probiotic, and that's what most people know of and hear about. There's a bazillion probiotics out there. They're essentially, a probiotic is essentially bacteria, right? And there's a whole bunch of different strains, and it's almost like if you're familiar with magnesium, there's a bunch of different types of magnesium, and they all have different, some is for like, to help your nerves, some is to help you sleep, some is for anxiety, some is for, there's a lot of different types of magnesium. And it's the same thing with probiotics, because they're basically just strains of bacteria. They're good bacteria. And they help, probiotics just help with like kind of overall gut health. They just help it function better, that sort of thing. Whereas prebiotics are actually food for the probiotics. So it's basically indigestible fiber. That's essentially what it is, but it's not like a typical kind of fiber that you'd get in like a potato or whatever. It's a specific type of fiber, essentially.
It's not the bacteria. It's the fuel for the bacteria.
Yep. Yeah. So it's almost like, if you're growing a garden, it's kind of like the fertilizer for the garden, and the whatever you're planting, the herbs or whatever would be the probiotics. The things that are growing would be that, and then the fertilizer would be the prebiotics. And it's actually a lot of times you'll see people that have probiotics, and they'll put prebiotics inside the capsule because it actually helps keep the probiotics alive longer, right? Because that's a huge thing with probiotics that a lot of people still actually don't even really understand, is that they're spending whatever, 40, 50, $60 on a probiotic, and if it's not in a specific type of capsule, you swallow it and it goes in your digestive in your stomach acid, and before it even reaches your intestines, which is where it starts to do the work, your stomach acid just burns it all up and kills all the bacteria, and you're left with like a couple % of what you paid for. So you might be paying $50, but you're really getting maybe $5 worth of it. So it's so we don't even sell probiotic, by the way, but that's one thing. I just look, there's so much competition, and there's a lot of good ones out there. But you really want to look for one. There's one, what's it called? Seed. And I like theirs because they actually do a 2 capsule design where it's the probiotics are in a capsule, but then there's another capsule around it, like a bigger capsule around it. And I think there's small amounts of prebiotics that essentially just help it kind of stay alive, but it protects the inside capsule. So when it's going through, it essentially gives it longer to get through your system without getting kind of burnt up and useless, essentially. So it's So anyway, so that's that's probiotics, and then like I said, prebiotics are essentially the fuel for so the probiotics literally like feed off the prebiotics, and that's so it's kind of interesting because the prebiotics themselves will they help the beneficial bacteria that you have, so all the different varieties of bacteria, they help that better on itself. But then they also provide there's constipation, they help with that obviously because it's fiber, and it helps. The way that it helps with that specifically is one of the ways is called peristalsis. So in your body, you have essentially it's like a wave-like motion that like when you swallow, that like force that pulls it down your throat, that actually happens. And you really only feel that in your throat because it's obvious, right? In putting a big chunk of food down your throat. But that process actually goes all the way down until you poop, right? So it's like a little, we call it like a conveyor belt, like a poop train, pretty much. So it's essentially that process is essentially responsible for getting food from your mouth down your throat into your stomach, and then pushing it all the way down through your small and large intestine, and then coming out as poop. So what happens is kind of like a lot of things as you get older, that process which is kind of a mix of electrical signals, kind of like anything else in your body, right? Electrical signals with muscle strength essentially. And as you get older, those things weaken. And so it doesn't, the contractions aren't as hard. So it can't, things get stuck essentially. So the prebiotics help, they actually help like increase peristalsis, or those, contractions that help it get it out more. And then on top of that, they help blood sugar. They've helped, because again, like fiber, it helps kind of slow the absorption of sugars, that sort of thing. It helps, it's shown to help like weight loss by helping to essentially regulates some of the hormones, leptin and ghrelin, which essentially control your hunger, right? It's and that's something that I've struggled with a long time. Was essentially like if you feel that you want to eat even though you're not hungry, that's generally because you like one of those. The levels of those are a little wacky, and so it's essentially telling your brain like, "Hey, we need food." But then your stomach's like, well, no, we really don't. But like your brain usually wins, especially when it comes to food. So it helps to kind of balance those levels. I mean, there's so many different benefits to it, and it's kind of cool because it helps all those things, but also acts almost like a probiotic, and it helps just overall gut health, which helps pretty much your entire body. So it's pretty amazing how it works, and just I'm fascinated by just how the body works and like how it's just so unbelievably smart in how everything flows together. And so I get fascinated by all this stuff.
So I have a question. This is kind of a selfish question, but I'm sure other people deal with this too. So the size and shape of my stomach seems to fluctuate all day long. Like when I wake up, I'm like, this is the body that I'm pretty happy with. But then by like 4:00, I'm like, I don't know who this is. Like. Right. My tummy is out to here. I don't feel as like lean and I don't know. I just feel a little bit heavier. And obviously I've been eating all day, but I've always been a little bit confused as to what actually is bloating. Like, is that what's going on with me? And if so, how do I deal with that? Or is it just, well, yeah, there's like breakfast and lunch in there. So now it's just going to be a little bit bigger. But that doesn't seem to happen to like guys. It seems to only happen to women. Guys get a 6-pack all day long.
Yeah. So bloating it's a good question. And just that, I guess, process in general of looking, let's just call it puffy. Because I know, like when you wake up, you're more lean, right? And it's essentially, there's a couple things going on there. So one would be water retention. So like as you're eating stuff, you have sodium, you bring in water. The sodium is kind of holding that water in your cells and things like that. So that's going to kind of make it come out a little bit. Versus when you wake up, you're more dehydrated, right? So it's like you almost like flush it out while you're sleeping, and it like in like the bodybuilding circles, they call it the shrink wrap effect, where basically if you flush a bunch of sodium, and this is what they do for like bodybuilding competitions, wrestlers or like MMA fighters, stuff like that, to drop their weight really fast.
I saw them do that on the Conor McGregor documentary. It was crazy. Yeah. It was crazy. Like he could drop 5 pounds in a morning.
Oh yeah, they I actually have one of my good buddies is a boxer, like kind of. I don't know what you call it. Not like, super professional, but like, at least getting in rings and stuff like that. But he, they'll drop, I think he told me 20 pounds in like 5 days is generally the like leading up to it. And then like to get weight, because they weigh like 180, they get all, big and all that. And then they just cut. And I don't know the exact way that they like the specifics on how they do it, because I never had to do that. It's also not healthy at all to do it like that.
We are not suggesting this, people. This is not
right. Yeah.
Weight loss.
Yeah, but it's they have more potassium, like that helps flush it out. No sodium. Drinking like 3 gallons of water a day. So it's just like it just gets like all of the salt out of your body. So anyway, they do that too. Essentially like getting a better weight class, and then they drink a whole bunch of stuff and add salt and food and to kind of bulk back up before they fight. But anyway, so that's part of it. That's like kind of the one the water retention part of it. And one thing that helps with that is potassium. So eat a lot of potassium, because potassium and sodium kind of balance each other out.
And do you have that in Peak BioBoost? Because that was I saw the benefits of it, and it said, far less, like it reduces bloating significantly. It's like, ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it doesn't do it that way. So it actually does the in the second part of what happens to bloating. So bloating is essentially just gas. It's essentially just, as you're digesting food, it creates gas as it's breaking it down, right? And that essentially just comes into your stomach and sits there, and which is very annoying. So the way that it helps is it basically just helps your body break it down better. So that's kind of part of one of the ways with I was saying earlier how it just helps your body. It helps your body like just have a better stomach. Like some people just have just weak stomachs, or like, it's just, like actually my wife and I, before I got into all this, she had a very, very hard stomach. She could eat anything she wanted. Stomach is perfect. I mean, like, and then I'm like, oh God, like I used to have really bad stomach issues. I was on Prebiotics for 17 years. I finally got off that a couple of years ago. All that kind of stuff. So I've made a massive change in my health in the past, pretty much since starting the business, a little bit before that. But anyway, so it really just, I mean, it helps your body just learn to digest better and more efficiently is kind of the bigger thing. Cause that's where most of the problem comes in, is when you have undigested food that's going through your body. Like, you need to break it all down. And if there's parts that aren't digested properly, that's where it starts to, create a lot of gas, and that creates the bloating and all that sort of stuff. So, so it really helps. It's almost like kind of like weightlifting for your like digestive process, if that analogy is. And it's kind of interesting too, because what we notice, and we actually have it in like the like we send out like a little card, to people. We have like an instructions page on like how to use it, and because a lot of people, like a lot of times when you take this, you'll actually get more bloated in the first like couple weeks of taking it.
This is it right here, right?
Yeah. There you go. Yep. Yeah. Yep. And so there should be like a link to like an instructions page or something on it. I forget. We updated that recently. But
give it a little step by step on what
is it? Yeah.
How to do it. How to use it. Yeah.
So essentially, when you first take it, and you're not used to getting prebiotic fibers in your diet, which most people aren't, because most of the time it's like, if they're in generally, these aren't all 100%, like these are mostly sort of comments, but generally they're in like raw foods, and it's in like raw onions and raw garlic and like raw asparagus and things like this. So it's like, it's stuff that you're not really going to eat much of, but then when you cook it, they actually like kind of die off. So you're like cooking them down essentially. And so you don't get the same effects. So a lot of people aren't getting them in their diet. So when you introduce them, sometimes, and not with everybody, but sometimes, depends on your stomach and history and all that stuff, you can actually get a little bit more bloating the first couple of weeks. But it's kind of, we kind of explain that to people, like, this is kind of like when you start lifting, right? Like when you start working out, and say you've never done a curl in your life, you go in there and you do 10 sets of curls, and you're not going to be able to move your arm for the next 3 weeks, right? Yeah. But you keep going in and keep doing that. You go in there once or twice a week, whatever. You keep doing that. After a couple of weeks, your body will be like, okay, cool. Now I'm stronger. Now that I'm used to this, that sort of thing. So it's literally going in, and your body just has to like readjust to it, and it readjusts in a stronger way. So now that bloating goes away, and it also helps, just the bloating in general. Yeah. And, and listen, nothing is it's not like you're never going to be bloated again. Like I'm not one of those, owners that's going to be like, oh yeah, like, I mean, take this and you'll never get bloated again. And you can eat, nachos every day. Like you still have to eat healthy and thing, but it definitely makes a difference for sure. That's, and most people, we actually get comments on, people's bloating and weight, like just as much as we do with constipation, because because it helps with that. And, and even if you don't look, or even if you don't lose like actual weight in terms of pounds, it looks like you're skinnier because you're not as bloated. So you might only lose 2 pounds, but it looks like you lost 10 because your stomach came in. Right. So it's interesting how it all works.
Yeah, we do a fair amount of traveling, and my wife has a kind of a subconscious mental block around using toilets outside of her own home.
Foreign toilet syndrome.
My wife does the same thing.
So like we were in Europe last year, and I think it had been almost a full week we had been there, and she was like, you know what, I have not gone to the bathroom, and I'm super bloated. I don't have that problem, but it was stacking up, and she's like, I feel like it's all stacking up, and so
she's going to start throwing up.
And like I think Jocelyn, you and I were talking earlier. I think poop does weigh something, right? It's got, it's got some weight to it, and if that stuff's not getting out of you, and she was continuously eating gelato and pizza, whatever. And it's like, I don't know, this isn't going anywhere. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finally, she, I think, after she got home, everything came out, and
you didn't see her for 2 days. She was just locked away in the bathroom.
She actually lost weight because all of it came out. It's funny, but interesting.
So you need a travel size of Peak BioBoost.
I think I need a travel size.
Yeah. That does happen, and that actually contributes to the bloating too. I've noticed, it
puts off gases, right? It puts off gases, and the gas. Where's the gas going to go? It's either going to go out the bum or
your body's very good at keeping things out and in.
Well, Darren, you mentioned gelato, so I was checking out Jeremy's site, and you guys have what looks like a pretty fantastic cookbook, the Perfect Poop Cookbook Desserts Edition.
Yeah.
I want just tell us some of your favorite recipes from this cookbook.
Yeah, that's a good. Let's see. Oh God, the favorite ones.
Because the pictures were beautiful. It looked really good.
Yeah. So what I actually did for that cookbook is, and it's actually kind of funny because I'm a cook myself. I love to cook. I've been, I actually have a big, 650 page cookbook out on my counter that I'm actually going through now. And I've taken classes and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a baker whatsoever. That's my wife does all the baking. But, so we put that together, a couple of years ago, and, I'd never done a cookbook. I had no idea how. So essentially what we did with that is, I have a bunch of friends in the industries, and, a lot of them had recipes. So I kind of made my criteria of what I wanted it to, kind of what I wanted the recipes to have in them, or more importantly, not have in them, like sugars and unhealthy fats and all that kind of stuff. And just went around to some of my friends in the industry and was like, hey, I just got your cookbook. I went through and I really like this recipe. Can we use that in ours? And then I would tweak them basing on, because some of them you can actually add Peak BioBoost in to make more. There's certain types of sugars that are better for your gut with people that have gut issues than a regular typical white sugar, that sort of thing. So it was, a lot of them are really, really beautiful. I would say, let's see. There's I think there's what is it? It's like a lemon blueberry, what's it called? The lemon blueberry.
Whatever word comes out next is going to be great. Lemon blueberry.
I keep thinking it's streusel, but like a crumb, like an apple crumb, but with the blueberries and lemon. I love lemon and blueberries, and so that one's a really good one for me. There's a couple good cheesecakes in there. I'm a big cheesecake guy, and then there's a couple of them too that are just really quick and simple to make, which is there's stuff with raspberries. Actually, there's a raspberry. This might be in one of the other ones. I don't know if it's in that one. We have a couple. We have probably because we actually have a separate thing called the Constipation solution, and that's an additional thing. But it's we have lunches, snacks, dinners, all that kind of stuff in there. So I might be mixing up which one this is, and I just totally lost my train of thought of which one I'm even thinking of.
So Peak BioBoost is one of your products. The other one is the Constipation solution. Is that a different?
Yeah. So that's we don't even sell that all that much. That honestly wasn't a big seller of ours, so we don't really we don't really market it all that much. But we do have that, that's available for customers. Honestly, if someone's watching this and they do end up getting, just email our customer support and they'll send it to you. It's just tell them that you listen to them on the show. That's kind of something that we use as as a gift for people, or things like that. Or someone comes in and sometimes some people, not everyone gets a result. I mean, there's no product in the world where 100% of people get results. I mean, geez, even if you think of medications, right, like that, I mean, they only have a probably 80% success rate. And it's, people have to switch them all the time and, figure out what's for them. But, so if people, if it doesn't work for them, that's something we say is hey, try it alongside eating some of these every day. And so the one that just came back to me was peanut butter, instead of peanut butter and jelly sandwich, it's just peanut butter and raspberry. And raspberries, it's so good. Yeah. And you make kind of a puree out of it, like the jelly. But raspberries they're one of my favorite foods ever. They are so high in like these really healthy fibers, and just taste delicious. And I mean, they're just so good. And so if you put it in just like a peanut butter jelly, and use some almond butter, whatever. If you eat regular peanut butter, that's fine. Whatever you're into. But like just stuff like that, it's just like little tweaks like that make such a big difference. If you even just replacing it. I know for me, I like avocados. So I'll do, in afternoons, I'll do avocados with everything seasoning, like the everything bagel seasoning. I really, it's one of my new favorite things. Yeah. So it's just stuff like that, just to help. You can't, it's as much as it can work for people if they eat a terrible diet. I mean, there's no point in eating unhealthy just because you can. Like, I don't know. It's I think I have a lot of respect for my body, so I always try to make sure I watch what I put into it, and always recommend our clients customers do the same.
I think there is, for me, I think I get a little frustrated. Like, I'm a pretty health conscious person. A lot of my friends are health conscious, but the frustration isn't, it's you don't know where to go for correct information, right? Like there's 17 different opinions on what's good for your gut, what's good for your muscles, what's good for brain health. Like, you talk to 7 different experts, you're going to get 7 different opinions. So I think that gets really, really frustrating, just not knowing where to go for accurate information. And like you said, there's no one size fits all. Everybody has, different chemistry and needs something a little bit different. But it sounds like you're offering a lot of different solutions for people, which is great. I'm wondering, Darren, have you tried Peak BioBoost? Because I would love to try it.
I've got it right here. I'll bring it. I'll bring it next time. You can take a big scoop home with you.
Okay. Yes. I'll just bring my little bag. We'll put a couple scoops in.
So, I mean, I would try this, but I'm super over regular, right? And so I'm
you're not our ideal customer.
I'm thinking if I take this, I may be on the toilet all day long, maybe. But like I said, I mentioned my wife, friends of mine that they do that they're not regular, right? It's like, they go a few days and haven't pooped yet. I'm like, well, that's crazy, but very, very common issue. Even if you have the best diet, right? It's just how somebody's, you have a different system, right? So, but yeah, we're super excited to have your product on the marketplace. We only have a few minutes left. Jeremy, what would you want our Poodcast audience to know about maybe what you got have going on and maybe in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, obviously you're listening to this because you're interested in poop, which is, whoever you're my kind of person, because it's, I've been talking about poop on a daily basis for like 4 years now, and it's awesome. It's honestly, that is one of the biggest things is like, I really wish that talking about these things, it's kind of ironic that the things that everybody does in life, poop and sex and all these things, they're all the taboo topics. Yeah. Like, we all do these things. Like, why is it weird to talk about the things that everybody does? I've never understood that. So I always try to kind of get that message out there. Like, it doesn't have to be weird talking about your poop. I mean, we all do it, sometimes multiple times a day, like, depending, if you're like Darren. So I mean, so that, and, but yeah, I mean, if you're just, obviously if you're, if you've had problems going to the bathroom on a regular basis, it should help. It helps most people, that try it. And listen, if it doesn't, we have a refund policy. So it's, it's free anyway, if it doesn't work for you.
You say try for 30 days just to give it a time to.
Yeah. That's, So like I was talking about, and, it's hard because like I tell my story and it's like, oh, it happened for me in 2 days. And then a lot of people expect like, oh, it's going to happen for me in 2 days. And it's like, well, everyone's different. And a lot of people it does. I mean, we get testimonies all the time. I took it like that day I went, the next day I went, whatever. I mean, we get tons of those. We also get a lot of people that I've actually seen like many, many times where people say, hey, thank you so much for like making sure that I knew to take it 30 days. It didn't work. And then all of a sudden, like a few weeks in, it kicked in and now I'm going every day, and it's like, yeah, your body it's like anything else. So, if you have constipation for 30 years, I mean, it's kind of unrealistic to expect something to just fix it in 2 days. Like, and again, sometimes it does. It depends on why it happens. There's so many factors that go into it. You could probably talk for days just on all the factors that go into constipation. But it really just depends, So, So, I mean, if you're interested in that, check us out. We have a ton of other products. We have stuff for most health conditions. We actually just launched one for circulation. We're launching one for bone health next week. I mean, we've kind of expanded quite a bit outside of constipation, and they're all really, really well formulated and stuff. It's I've been in this industry for a long time. The supplement industry in general is not a great industry. I don't love it at all because I see a lot of what goes on behind the scenes, and people are just they do what they call they'll basically sprinkle fairy dust. Essentially, they'll be like, oh, this berberine helps your blood sugar or whatever. And they'll put a tiny little dust thing of berberine in there. And it's like, well, no, it might help if you have a gram or a gram and a half in it, but not 50 milligrams, So we always try to make sure that the ingredients we have are in the correct dosages and, all the right things that you should be doing essentially.
Well, Jeremy, I'm sorry, we've got less than a minute. It's counting down on my screen. So I just want to make sure that we have enough time to thank you. I am actually very, very excited to try this. I mean, I'm creeping toward the mid 40s and I've had 2 babies, and this system has had a wild ride in the last 10 years. Yep. So I will return and report on my Peak BioBoost experience. But Jeremy, thank you very much for joining us. Yeah. And like Darren said, we are selling Peak BioBoost on the marketplace, and we would love to hear your experience with it too. So thank you so much. All right. Great interview with Jeremy. I really enjoyed getting to know him and hearing his story that felt very organic. Like he was just solving a problem. He didn't set out to, create a huge business and whatever. He just wanted to help himself and the people around him. And now, thanks to that, he's helping, hopefully, me.
And all of our other customers on our marketplace.
That's right. It is on the marketplace. And I love that. I mean, his explanation, because I always kind of wondered that. You hear prebiotic, probiotic, what is this? I mean, this is a prebiotic, not to be confused with a probiotic. But yeah, like you said, helping feed the good bacteria, which I think makes a whole lot of sense.
This is the fuel for the good bacteria.
Exactly right. And so if your bacteria is happy, then your gut's happy and your brain's happy and, life is happy, right?
Yeah, I loved hearing about the cookbooks. And they're if you go on their website, you can see this dessert cookbook that looks really, really fun. I'm always about the desserts. So if that's involved, I'm interested. But just a cool guy and a really cool story. And
the products done really well.
The testimonials speak for themselves.
Yeah.
If you go to their site, it's just you scroll and scroll and scroll. It goes on forever. So this seems to be working for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a great product. Great. We're excited to have them as partners in the ZuLoo marketplace where, as you know, a portion of every sale goes toward our toilet projects in different places. So, yeah.
That's right.
It's all good.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the ZuLoo Pōōdcast. Follow us on social media at our links in the show notes below. To learn more, visit our website, ZuLoo.org. If you liked the podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. For even more ZuLoo fun, send us an email with your toilet stories to podcast@zuloo.com for a chance to be featured on the podcast. This episode of the ZuLoo Pōōdcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at zuloo.com.